Just want to begin by saying thank you to everyone tuning in today to Metastreet AMA with us at MVHQ. Appreciate your time for joining us today, team. Want to just start off with a couple of your backgrounds. I see that today we have Connor and David from the Metastreet team joining us. I think we just start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, what your position is working at Metastreet, and what you guys have been currently cooking for the past time.
For sure. I'll get started and hand it off to Connor. Hey guys, my name is David Choi. I'm a co-founder of Metastreet with Connor and Ivan as well. And a little background about me: I started my career doing art lending, so collateralizing artworks to provide loans, like Warhols and like Frank Stella's in Upper East Side, New York. And also worked in investment banking after with Connor at Deutsche, and again doing loans but for real estate and like casinos, and evolved into crypto and been in the space since like 2016, doing like proto MAV, like gas bombing to get into ICOs and evolving into like actual venture investments myself, and that led to real MEV down the road and DeFi farming and all the circuits of pre-DeFi crypto, which was very grim, to where we are today, which is still kind of grim right now, but at least it's a little more hopeful. And I started Metastreet because I noticed NFT lending was kind of like starting to become a thing when we started, which was September 2021, and noticed that there was very little volume for how much value there was in NFTs, and NFTs had like billions of dollars with 10 mil of lending volume. And I knew there was ways to scale this kind of this lending and kind of like a financial structuring angle, and view debt in terms of a little more about like how it functions in terms of not only providing leverage for trades, but like just generally like how mortgages work, all the way to like creating really deep and long-term debt in terms of value for users. Because NFTs to me kind of represented the building blocks of what is soon to be the metaverse, and wanted to kind of structure products in that direction. So started with like a V0, which was a DAO that gave loans. We gave like, I think the biggest loans in history up until that point, like a $1 million loan, all the way to like a 100 punk loan, which was a Sotheby's seller who ended up canceling the sale and borrowing with us. And then launched with a V1, which was an aggregator of NFT lending platforms where we provided automatic bids. And then from those lessons of getting our hands dirty and being the largest lender in the space, we created this protocol which tranches out loans in different levels, so that the bottom, so people who want to lend at like the lowest levels, like 30% like LTV, can still participate, along with the people who are lending at 90% LTV, as you're seeing with like these existing platforms. And typically that's how you win, is usually with how much you are willing to provide the proceeds for. And all those people can now be combined to provide a single offering. And eventually we'll integrate with Blur once the APIs are more available. But everybody in this room can come together to provide a single loan on a single asset instead of having to compete with each other. And that's kind of the product that we're angling towards, as well as different things that you can build off of that kind of a product angle. But more into like a V2, we'll jump in on how that works. Connor, if you want to jump in.
Yeah. Hey guys. David and I co-founded Metastreet in 2021. Before that, I was doing basically all traditional finance, started my career in investment banking, and then worked in private equity. And yeah, I mean, the whole product really is just creating lending markets for NFTs. And so with V2, we really wanted to create something that would basically be completely permissionless, and whatever, is the most interesting use case of NFTs today, and whatever the most interesting use case of NFTs tomorrow is, you can create a lending pool to support that asset, instantly access capital from anywhere in the world. Every single participant in the pool can dictate exactly what their risk profile is, and never, be subject to someone else's decision on what risk you should take. And if you want to participate at a really low risk, like David said, you can do that, which isn't really possible anywhere else. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the background in a nutshell. David covered pretty much most of the company history up till this point. So we launched V2, the automatic tranche maker, ATM, in I guess 2 weeks ago now. So we're kind of at this point where we're trying to basically like, talk to people, educate people on, what exactly you can do with Metastreet and like how you can make money with it, how you can kind of like hedge your own downside if you're an NFT holder already, how you can make money lending if you want to be on that side of the equation. So yeah, thought it'd be good to come in and chat with you guys and kind of start off by just exploring, what exactly you're interested in on the kind of like NFT lending side of all things metaverse, and then we can kind of tailor the conversation to what's most interesting to you guys from there. Give you a product demo and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I think that with lending, there has been a lot of action with, obviously most of the projects that have been highlighted through Blur. I don't think there has been enough time for people to interact with the opportunities in like Blend or whatever lending platforms are available. So it's hard to say like where people would be gravitating towards. But interested to hear what do you guys think your favorite features are about your platform? Is it borrowing? Is it the features within the pool, like being able to trade with low risk or higher risk? What are some of your thoughts there?
Yeah, maybe I'm gonna just share my screen. So this is Snowgenesis, great analytics platform for NFT lending. So basically, this is Bored Ape Yacht Club loan offers, and you can see there's a ton from Blur, and then you also have other platforms as well. But what I want to highlight here basically is like, if you're not willing to lend, 32 ETH against an ape that's worth 33, you're probably not going to participate in the market. Like, you're just not competitive. And so I think one of the kind of downfalls of this design is like, obviously Blur's got liquidity farming, yada yada yada, like whatever. But even if that didn't exist, the kind of like degen out there will provide very, very high LTV loans in order to kind of like win the market. And that means that like if you're a little bit tepid on NFT lending as a concept, or you're maybe unsure of like if you want to go full bore, like you probably can't participate. Like if you wanted to make a loan for at like a 30% LTV, so like something's worth 10 ETH and you want to lend 3 ETH to it, like you're not going to be able to. There's no borrowers who will take that deal because they can get more competitive terms from other people in the market. So really like the fundamental value proposition of Metastreet is to allow people that are willing to take more or less risk all stack their positions on top of each other, and then basically like work collaboratively to create loans for borrowers. And where that plays out like over time is basically if my perfect scenario is being at 30% LTV and David's perfect scenario is being at 70% LTV, and we can work together, we're going to end up offering borrowers better terms than any one individual at 70% LTV. So the high risk participant is basically getting leverage from the low risk participant, and the low risk participant is getting insurance from the high risk participant. And everyone's goal is just to like generate volume, make money for themselves. And then on the borrower side, borrowers are happy because they get a better execution from the loan than they would have otherwise. But that's basically like the product in a nutshell. I will give I'll give you a full walkthrough, but maybe I'll stop there just in case there's a question, and then we can move on.
Oh, that's great. Feel free to continue.
Cool. All right. So I'm just going to give you guys the kind of full walkthrough. I think it's easier to just see it. Okay. So this is the borrower interface, and these are all the NFTs in my wallet. And I can basically see this little max borrow section tells me whether or not there's a pool that has liquidity for my NFTs there. So I got some fat Zookies, and I can basically select as many of these as I want, and then originate a loan. The best offer that I can get right now is a 3-day loan. And so, I would take a 3-day loan on these Fadzukis. And then if I had an active loan, which I do, it would look like this. So I've got a loan against an HVMT heavy metal. And actually we have a delegate cash integration. So this is actually delegated so that I can play the game while also having the loan outstanding. And I can basically just extend this whenever I want. So this loan is active right now. It's due in 3 days. I borrowed, half an ETH. And I can basically extend that loan for another 7 days and just like hit this extend button. Or if I wanted to repay it, I could repay it there too. So that's the borrower interface. It's designed to hopefully be pretty straightforward and simple. You can batch you can batch a bunch of NFTs together. So if you have low value NFTs, you don't have to like go and execute, pay gas to execute individual NFTs one at a time. And then if you want to just, have a loan outstanding for longer, you can just extend it whenever you want. You don't have to pay money to extend, et cetera, et cetera. And that's it. So all the borrower is going to see is the best possible execution that they can get for 3 and 7 and 30 days. Behind the scenes, what is actually happening, this is all mainnet, this is live right now. So what's actually happening is you have all these different lenders who are depositing money into a pool of capital, and that's where the money is coming from that the borrowers are accessing. So this is the captain's pool, and you can basically see these purple bars are basically different deposits within the pool, and those deposits are at a certain price. And so basically what that means is this thick purple bar here, this is my my deposit at 4.8 ETH. And basically that person is participating in loans up to 4.8 ETH in price and above 4.009. So when a loan gets originated, it will come from, a subset of all of these different ticks. And so this guy will basically be the highest risk position from 4 to 4.8, and then you just basically work down the stack. All of these ticks get to participate in a loan, as I said, but they share interest unequally. So someone at the bottom will have a much smaller share of the interest income than someone closer to the top. And you can actually see this is kind of cool. So this is basically like a defunct tick. It's not explicitly defunct, but when this loan matures, this participant will be wiped out because you can see the floor price is now below. This probably was done. Yeah. So like this is a historical price chart. You can see the price was 8.1 ETH about 30 days ago. And so that participant basically made a loan at, 7.5. And at the time thought it was a good loan, and then, price fell and he gets liquidated. And yeah, so that's pretty much how the deposit interface works. So I've got a position live here, so you can see this position is live right now. So this is at 4 ETH, this tick right here. So just 75% LTV, and I'm currently getting a 23% yield on that position. And I think that's pretty much everything on the pool interface. I guess a couple other things here would be this red line here, this 3.8. That's the best offer in the market that isn't coming from this pool. So if I go to the captains on Snow Genesis, you can see what the best offers are. These are 1 day offers, so 7 day, 3.8, yeah. So you basically want to beat that, right? Like if the pool isn't providing loans above, oh, that's funny. Someone literally just originated a loan as I was talking. But so if
at that point, I should say not financial advice.
Yeah, not financial advice. Yeah. But yeah, so this 3.8, that's the best offer in the market. And so if the pool isn't able to beat that, it probably won't be winning loans. And yeah, so this is totally automated, right? Like once I've deposited here, you just saw that loan come through. So borrowers are basically making their borrowing decisions from this capital that's already in the pool. And this guy's paying a 50% rate for a 3-day loan. And you can see all the, historical, transactions that have happened in the pool. Yeah, I think that's most of what I wanted to cover. Maybe I'll stop there and pause in case David wants to jump in, or if there's any questions just right off the bat.
Yeah, I had a question. You mentioned Fadzuki's, a relatively new collection.
Mhm.
Let's say you want to add a new collection. Is that something that you guys are curating, or is it something that's contractual? Like you can pull it up by contract, and then if there's a pool willing to be opened, then
This is like one of my favorite things about this is because like the whole design is basically created so that you can create huge, deep liquidity pools, but there's no permissions required anywhere. So like I can create, like I did this the other day, like this is Roofstock's like house NFTs. And I just created a pool for that, just like as a proof of concept. You can literally search any ERC 721 contract address and create a lending pool for it. And right now this is all in ETH, but we're actually adding multi-currency. So like a good example of this would be like the parallel cards, like the parallel alpha avatar cards, where you're earning in what's the token that these guys have? Prime, yeah. So you're earning Prime. So like you could create a Prime parallel lending pool. And there's no limitations. Like anyone can do that. Anyone can set any terms they want, and other participants can come in and basically operate in that market. So it's across all ERC 721s, across all ERC 20s, like anything you can think of, you can just create, and there's no limitations on users.
that's awesome. Love that feature. Very similar to another platform we use, Catchment. Like if you're willing to trying to find any contract on anything that's minting, it's very easy to find it that way. So really like that feature.
Yeah, totally. I didn't cover auctions, but basically if anything does default, then it goes into auction, and whatever it sells for gets deposited back into the pool and is shared in a waterfall to these lenders. So like these guys at the bottom will get all their income and their principal back first, and then the next guys, and so on. And like these guys will end up, getting wiped out on their position because they made a risky bet. But the return profile for this stuff is like remarkably high. So you can see, just going back to Snow Genesis, like the market is pretty consistently in that 30 to 50% APR range. But if you are in one of these like higher risk positions, you'll actually be far in excess of that. Like you could easily be in like triple digit yields. So you could create like small positions and like a high risk tranche and get like 150% yield on that. Or you could kind of hang out in these lower risk positions and get like kind of like 10-15% yields.
Yeah, seems very straightforward, to be honest.
Yeah, and just to highlight, if you're lending on here, if you click into loan originated for this Captain's most recent, it could be on a platform that somebody's borrowing from, that you saw before, or it could be from X2Y2 or NFTFi. It aggregates it all for you, because in reality, like we said before, like you're trying to get yield on this platform, like true yield, and where it comes from doesn't really matter, as long as it's the same collateral type. So this one's from X2Y2. So yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
so
it's
that
also
feed right
an
there is a live feed from other platforms as well, is what you're saying?
Yeah, so the red line is showing where the best offer is. Traditionally, like, I mean, just right now, if you're under the red line for a 7-day loan, you would never get matched, because lenders almost always choose the highest LTVs on these platforms. It's less so interest rates, unless it's absurd. But mostly, like, interest rates to them are it's kind of fungible. They just need the proceeds. And here they need it for if you don't have 3.8, it's kind of why you want, if you're in the bottom stack, you can now work with them. But yeah, everything here is it's essentially a front end for all these other lending platforms to make it so that you can cut up these interests.
Yeah, so if you're depositing in these pools, you're lending natively on Metastreet, and you're also lending on all of the other lending platforms. It's an aggregator in that sense.
Got it. Okay. I was gonna ask you on the bottom feed, any thoughts on adding like icons from where these loans or requests are being filled from?
That's a great idea. We should definitely do that. We're also going to add a toggle that you can toggle on and off just to see only your transactions versus the whole pool. Some other stuff too. But yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, because I'm even thinking, right? Like, let's say that you could tell, like, from what platform most requests are being sent from. Let's say that it's Blur or OpenSea, for example. You could also see like the trading volume that's going on with that specific collection, even if you're not trying to do loaning at that specific moment. So it would be great to get that kind of data or feedback right at that moment, you know?
Yeah, totally. That's a good point.
So I'm browsing through your website right now, and I see that you guys raised. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, totally. So we started the company in October of 2021, and we raised a seed round. And we also, as part of that seed round, raised like basically a private vehicle to actually like do the lending ourselves. Raised from Dragonfly, Nascent, Ethereal, Fermion, Delphi, like a bunch of the kind of bigger seed round funds. And that was basically how we started, was just like getting our hands dirty. And we deposit into our own platform now as well, but especially back then we were basically just like figuring this whole space out, because like David said, it's about 10%, 10 million of total lending volume at that time. So it's like a tiny market. Today it's over 2 billion. And so at the time we kind of had to like just get our hands dirty and see what people actually wanted, and actually go and make loans and see how they did and things like that. So we ended up doing about $60 million in lending volume through kind of like manual BD efforts, and then we basically built a product around that, around like solving the problems that we had as lenders ourselves and making it more seamless of an experience from there. And then we raised the second round in 2022, and yeah, more household names: DCG, OpenSea, a few other folks, the Lao.
Congratulations. That's amazing. What time in 2021 did you guys found Metastreet?
It was in October of 2021, so it was particularly frothy at that point.
You're telling me. That was a great time.
Good times, man. Yeah.
So, in perspective to how you were back then and how you're looking at the market now, what are your thoughts on the market? Do you think that you are going to be focusing on features right now, as we ramp up for the future bull run, or are you guys just like really heads down on product right now?
We have been very heads down on product, and I think that will continue to be a big part of our focus, just because candidly we're kind of product first founders. That's like our main focus, and it's like how I think you can actually create value for people and ultimately like token holders is by having a great product, right? Like, even though Blur has obviously done all sorts of farming and stuff, Blur has a phenomenal product, and that's really like where that all started. And I know you guys were pretty instrumental in like early iterations on that too. So I think that'll continue to be one of our focuses, but also it's just like kind of outreach and awareness, and like just talking to people and explaining the whole market. I think it's hard for a lot of people to grasp the NFT lending space just because it's pretty is pretty out there. So a lot of education and stuff like that as well.
This, just to highlight too, this is a very much a pro interface, as you can tell. Like, there's a lot of information, and I think obviously a lot of user bases are generally pros at this stuff. NFT lending's new, but these are, I mean, we were the largest lender on these platforms, and this is exactly the information that we would need to make an informed decision. We are like gonna launch more retail friendly platforms, and try to like figure out ways to make that a little easier to grasp, and maybe make the debt even longer, like very, very long duration, using like some financial engineering tools that we use traditionally. And so that is one consideration to have, is like the pools interface here is the borrows hopefully was quite straightforward for you guys, but like the pools is a complex interface on purpose, because it gives you full control over how you want to allocate your capital and risk and reward.
Yeah, but I will say that's good, right? Because you want users that are advanced in the space to be able to use the tool to the fullest, as opposed to limiting and then adding more features as people start requesting them, you know? So it is really good that you have all this information. Like, as I was saying, the live feed at the bottom, that's awesome. That's very much needed. I'm sure a lot of people will get a lot of use out of that, just to understand where the money's flowing from, right? But I do agree. Easier interface makes it easier for people to get onboarded onto your platform as well.
I think somebody just originated another one like 5 minutes ago. So it's fun to see like where the other strategies are at, and like where you can deploy capital. The other platform that we have is like just a one-click deposit. Like, it automates the lending for you, so it's really easy. Like, it would automatically rebalance. You can see the position management for this platform too. Like, if you're in a position, you have to withdraw out of that position, and then you can re-enter into a new position, as well as another product where we would issue like a bond which represents your position, and you could trade out of it in different ways. So you can have 1-year long loans or something. So these are like upcoming products that makes it a little more DeFi-esque, and also a little more automated. But yeah, hopefully, I think the new playing field is less so the origination side. As you can see, like, Blur is going to always do origination, and NFTFi, they have a lot of debt outstanding. It's more so like, what is the new game on top of it? And that's what we're trying to play. It's kind of the more complicated feature set.
Absolutely. And as you were saying that, I'm looking at the top, you have a leaderboard. You mind if we go through that?
Yeah, it's not fixed right now, so we're working on it. But I think there's like negative numbers and stuff. But we're trying to have more competitions, and that's what it's for. So this is an early push. So we'll be having competitions. I'm not sure if that's something you guys might be interested in, like every like seasonal effectively, and just like cash bonuses for like being the most aggressive or making the most amount of money for certain collections. If MVHQ's like user base might be interested in that, we would do like permissioned leaderboards. So this was a carryover from our pre-launch leaderboard, where somebody won like, I think 10K or something. But we probably host those just to get like more people familiar with the platform, especially if there's a big prize. Then I think people are more willing. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say MVHQ is pretty competitive. They love trading, so yeah, I definitely think that would be a great initiative.
Yeah, we in terms of the point systems, which I think a lot of people are starting to adopt, like NFTFi, we kind of want to make it more like cash focused first before we really learn what we want to scale in terms of what certain behaviors. So that is that's still being worked. For now, it's just lending competitions one by one. And yeah, we'll work with you guys to see what might be fun.
Absolutely, that sounds great. I'm pretty much at the end of my questions here, but open to any discourse or questions that you guys might have had about us. Willing to answer too.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious what people are trading in terms of outside of Blur. I guess like Fat Zuki's was the main one today, but in terms of the market, like what kind of trends might be interesting to you guys right now? Have you guys like jumped into lending a lot with the new launch, or are you guys still trying to catch mints?
I think it's a little bit of both. I know that recently a lot of people had eyes on the Ether mint, which, you know, sadly they ended up not pausing their mint. They had some issues. But yeah, people are keeping an eye on mints. Obviously, talking about the bigger collections like heavy metal, Bored Apes, Mutants, and everything in between there.
Interesting. Yeah, I think the market is in need of like a new form of like mints or a new kind of NFTs that might like reinvigorate interest. And it might be on like the innovation side. There's been a lot of stuff happening with NFTFi. I'm surprised nobody has created an NFT that is around the financialization, like fundamentally. I think Arc Alberts tried to do it, but like really using external protocols to fuel that kind of behavior. I think that could be one emergent trend. It's kind of like how the Axie guys kind of like figured it out. They were like looking at what DeFi was doing, even though they were NFTs. So that hopefully that can be
I think the difficult part with all of this is just trust. And like as we start using platforms, sometimes they just don't optimize, or they kind of fall behind on product, and users get bored, or they try to find another alternative, right? And then nothing really gets cemented.
Totally feel that. As like a builder myself, it's tough to like deal with on-chain mechanisms, because that's one thing we do like quite highlight. Is that everything we're doing is on chain. So we did get an audit, if that gives some level of like comfort. There were 0 critical errors on both audits, which is extremely rare in the space. It was from Spirit, which is one of the better auditors, but totally not just necessarily a smart contract logic, but also just product trust. We did try to stay in the space from the get-go and try to build on what we know, what we do best. So if there are other feature sets within lending that might be interested in people, like automating the airdrop, which is what we're doing, by the way. If anybody lends on our platform, you will get distributed the airdrop if it happens in the future, and stuff like that. Delegate cash was another feature, like I have a borrow and I want to use it during the borrow. That is also something we iterate pretty fast on. So we're still very much in product mode. Obviously starting to do distribution for this call, but if you guys have any other feature sets that you might be interested in, happy to build it out.
Oh yeah, actually, I just want to hammer that because David kind of just glossed over it, but we should have mentioned this earlier. So NFTFi and Arcade are both doing token releases in the next 3 months, and a lot of our volume comes from those two platforms. And we basically have a bot that connects Metastreet to those platforms. And so if that bot gets any rewards, we'll just basically share it proportionally with the whatever the deposit wallets were in Metastreet. So even it, like, ideally you make great money just from the yield on the loans, but even on top of that, you'll also be able to just like have easy access to farming both of those airdrops as well. So just a heads up.
Awesome. And talking about airdrops, I just see that Britt mentioned, will Metastreet do a token? And follow up to that, if so, when?
When token? Yeah, well, at some point in the future, we are, probably going to want to decentralize the project and all of that. And so, yeah, that's in the cards. But I think, to your point, like on focusing on product and all of that, like we really want to get it right, and not just like, launch a token too early before the product has like really found its home amongst users. So I think right now that's our focus. And then in the future, we'll see where things shake out.
Perfect. You passed the test. That was the best response I could have gotten. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that token drop should be rushed at all. So really love the approach that you guys are taking there.
Yeah, it's like a silver bullet for growth. And so, if you do it right, it's super valuable for everyone involved. But that's the key caveat, doing it right.
All right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our conversation here. Just want to say thank you again, and want to give you guys a moment just to leave us off with some last thoughts or ideas that you guys had. Obviously, the conversation will always be ongoing, but definitely excited for the future, what we could work with together, maybe a leaderboard, as you mentioned, but very excited for this.
Yeah, we definitely want to do a competition with you guys. Really give you a real incentive to like get your hands dirty with the app and give us as much feedback as possible on the user experience. So we'll probably just follow up with you guys afterwards on like kind of the logistics there. But I definitely think that'd be a lot of fun and make sure people are getting rewarded for spending time on this stuff.
I did have a question for the audience. If has anybody here taken out a very long loan before, like more than 60 days? And if not, would you? Like a 100-day loan or something very, very long? Again, it's, like a punk. It's kind of curious, or most people here like trading types, like they would only take a short-term loan for now, because there's interest involved with a long-term loan.
Based off the people that I'm looking at in chat are legendary traders. I don't know about I don't know about loaning or borrowing, but they definitely trade a lot more than they do that.
Understood. All right. Well, that's one of the things that we were exploring. Is like a loan for 1 year. For like, I know Squiggles is starting to do that more often, but I think other products could explore that option. It's kind of like the foil to a 1-day loan, which is very fast, but you can perpetuate it. But on the other hand, it feels nice to not just ignore and maintain and not have any concern at all about a loan that could happen for a very long duration.
Actually,
Yeah.
I'll actually speak on that point as well, right? So what kind of collections do you think could be added to a long-term loan?
Anything that could mark, yeah. In finance, we call it like the capital market depth. Depends on how much the market is able to take, and that's how you issue those kind of like those effective bonds, or I won't say the S word, which is securities, but effectively, you would issue that based on how much the market can handle. It's kind of like IPOs. Like you don't do an IPO in a bear market. You do an IPO when there's capital market depth for the equities. So effectively, like if there is something like, say, if my ladies would want to have something like that, would you buy into that like issuance? So it is like a new financial product for NFTs, where it'll be very long dated, and that would be tradable. It wouldn't just be like, hey, you're in the loan and you get no representation back. So this is just like things we explore, like what else can we push that might change the fundamental value of these assets. So if it's long dated, that means it's very creditworthy and it's very valuable. Just like art loans, when I was doing it, they're very long dated, and you can hand off the notes to other people depending on how valuable they were. And most art markets are generally loaned against, which is another fun fact. Actually, for mints, because auctions happen, and then that's an equivalent for a mint. So you'd actually provide a loan to provide the guarantee of auction before it happens. But I can get into that maybe another time in terms of how all that works. But so we're just trying to see what else we can like create in the space that might be an interest to a trader.
Yeah, I think with that, it would definitely have to be with a very, very curated collection list that you would have like on a longer term, right?
Yeah, for sure. It would be like punk squiggles, autoglyphs, or something like that.
Because I was even thinking, like, let's say we had Bored Apes, right? They fluctuate a lot throughout the year.
Yeah, exactly. And I have a theory for that too, is because the issue with, I mean, if you want me to get into the financial theory there, it's similar to like a dividend drop off, which is when a stock splits or like has a dividend. And what happens that is that it almost always goes down in value because the expected value of an asset generally decreases because that was expectation. It would increase if there's like backstops like cash flows. But I actually think ApeCoin is doing negatively to the holders themselves, unless there's something that can bring it back up in terms of value. Then the sum of the parts, and generally that doesn't happen in a limited user base where the user base isn't increasing. So when you have these elemental hold for mints or like these staking where people think it's free money, it's very much not, and that's how the market prices it in financial theory. But I'm just kind of tangenting there. So there's other ways to represent value in ways that go beyond just, hey, hey, if you hold this, you get that. You can maybe collateralize it. It's kind of why US has debt that they mint as opposed to, you get free US dollars every day, because it's representing a different obligation in a certain sense. But if you guys have any questions about that, happy to go on.
All right. I think we get in there right there. Just want to say thank you again for spending time with us today. David and Connor. It was great getting to talk to you guys, giving us a light review on your product and what you guys have been working on. Very excited for the features that you guys have rolling out here soon, and looking forward to that token.
Totally. If you guys have any questions on NFT finance in general, not just our product, we're kind of engaged on pretty much most of those platforms, whether integrating or building on top. It's kind of our motto. So if you have any questions, let us know, and happy to be a resource.
Sounds good. Cheers.
Thanks, guys, for the time. See you later.